Welcome to Generate. I'm Jen, and I'm on a quest to generate self-sustaining joy. We've talked before about how sometimes we give up some of our joy in moments where we're not being true to ourselves. I see overcoming this as having two parts. First, knowing what it means to be true to ourselves, and second, maintaining that standard, especially when it's challenged. In the last video, we looked at the first part, which was how to define your authentic self. I've put a link to that video in the description box below. In this video, we'll look at how to maintain your authenticity in moments where your natural instinct would be to change yourself for the people or circumstances around you. Now, this change won't happen overnight, but I'll introduce you to a few guiding principles that will make it easier for you to identify when this happens and counteract it when it does. So, let's dive right in. The first thing I want you to do is to identify what it feels like when someone gives you the impression that you need to change something about yourself. This will help you notice when it comes up again, because so often we don't even realize that we're affected by a comment because we're so busy playing it cool. To identify the feeling, I want you to think of a specific moment where someone or something made you feel like you had to change something about yourself. It could be a direct comment, like, "Wow, you sure love your bootcut jeans." Or maybe it was an indirect comment that the speaker didn't realize applied to you, like, "Girls who drive trucks just do it for attention." Or maybe it's something broader, like magazine headlines that point out ways to hide your freckles or smooth out your hair, and you previously never worried about those things. Whatever your scenario, I want you to think about what the statement was, how it felt physiologically and emotionally, and how you responded in the immediate, the short term, and the long term. I'll give you a personal example to help you with your own. I'm a big fan of Queen Rania of Jordan. I think she's super cool. I shared one of her posts on Facebook once, and years later, someone I'm not very close with made an offhand comment about it, and the connotation was clearly negative. In the moment, the comment had a very clear reaction in my body. Physiologically, I felt a pit in my stomach, my face got flush, and I felt my heart flutter a little bit. Emotionally, it felt a little bit like disappointment or embarrassment or shame. In the moment, I played it pretty cool and I brushed it off. But for a year or two later, I policed myself to make sure I didn't talk about this interest at all. Admittedly, it wasn't very hard because the topic didn't come up in conversation very often. A long time later, I saw a new post from Queen Rania that I really wanted to share, and my first instinct was to hold back. However, I stopped for a moment and thought about whether I really care about what that person had to say, even if more people felt the same way. I decided that it was such an inconsequential thing that it really didn't matter what anyone thought about it. The post made me happy, so I shared it. Then I found out another friend of mine also loves Queen Rania, and we bonded over it. Anyway, that's my example for identifying the feeling. It helped me ascertain how those moments feel physiologically and emotionally, and I was also able to notice my immediate, my short-term, and my long-term reaction. The next time you feel those things, especially in response to a negative comment or circumstance, I want you to just take a beat and acknowledge that it's happening. This will be lightning quick because it's going on in your head as there's still something going on in the world around you. But it's important to acknowledge that you're feeling this way. Doing so helps you with step 3. Address it. There are a couple different ways that you can handle the situation depending on what's appropriate for the moment at hand. You could say things like, "Actually, I really like doing my hair this way." Or, "Please don't insult something I care about." Or even, "I don't think that judgment applies to everyone in that category." There are lots of ways to respectfully disagree with somebody without having to change yourself for them. The other person may actually respect you more for that. If the concern is something more societal, like unfair beauty standards, speaking up may help you identify other people who feel the same way, and then all of you feel more normal. If you don't think calling it out is appropriate for the scenario, the other way you could approach it is by doing an informal after-action report. Ask yourself some key questions to debrief the situation, like, how did the comment make you feel? Do you respect the opinion of the speaker? Was the comment accurate? And how can you take care of yourself so that the interaction doesn't steal your joy? When something like that knocks the wind out of your sails, it's okay to acknowledge that your feelings were hurt. But when you're ready to get back out there, there are a lot of ways to build back up your confidence. For example, you could write yourself a letter about why that quality or your qualities in general are so special about you. If it helps, you could write it from the perspective of an anonymous outside observer or even from the perspective of somebody that you really admire. It could even be a letter from your future self to your current self or from your current self to a past self. Maybe you can make a list of affirmations so that you start to talk nicer about yourself. For example, if somebody insulted the way that you dress, you could make affirmations about the way you dress so that you're inherently talking about yourself nicely. It could be something like, the way I dress is perfect for me, or my style is part of what makes me so unique. You could look at a photo album of a happy memory to help give you some perspective on where this moment fits in the grand scheme of things. Or you could call up a friend for a pep talk. Try not to rely too much on external validation to make yourself feel better, because external validation won't always be accessible, and we won't always need it if our inner narrative or the way that we talk and think about ourselves is positive and we believe what we're saying about ourselves. Now, this takes time and it won't happen overnight, but it is one of the best investments you can make in your life. Now, a big disclaimer. There are some cases in life where change is good and healthy and even necessary. Some examples of this are stopping an unhealthy or unproductive pattern, ending a behavior that hurts yourself or others, or making a change that pushes you in a direction more in keeping with who you want to be. These changes are not always fun and they're not always immediately joyful, but they will lead to increased joy in the long term. This video isn't intended to get at those types of changes. We can talk about that some other time. What this video is trying to do is to prevent you from making changes that take away from your joy, rather than the changes that bring you fresh joy. This video is meant to help you hold fast to who you are, because who you are is exactly who you are meant to be. I'll say it again. Who you are is exactly who you are meant to be. Hopefully this video gave you the baseline ability to identify when you'll feel tempted to change yourself for someone or something around you. I also hope you'll walk away with at least one strategy for how to respond to these situations, including how to build yourself back up if the situation takes you down a peg. Thank you so much for being here today. Please like this video if it resonated with you, and subscribe to the channel if you'd like more content. May your week be filled with joy.